This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
Welcome in, everybody. One new friend, old friend shows back up, and a couple new ones have to go. This is your show, and we're going to break it down for you. This is Dan Harms. He's going to take all the tough questions. I'm just here to take the easy ones. So we're going to have a good time. We're brought to you by BetUS. Go check them out. You can get 125% of your deposit back, up to $2,000 right now, and that is always, a nice number to get. It's my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Check them out at BetUS down below. Big news of the day, Juju Smith-Schuster coming back. We're going to cover Dan's 53 because we're about 24 hours from knowing that. We're going to talk about Juju, and then we're going to get to all of your questions. This is your show. I'm Ryan. Nice to see you. Dan, Juju's back. I know we had discussed this a couple times, but on it happening, how do you feel?
It's fine. It's fine. I don't think it has anything to do with Rashee Rice. I don't think it has anything to do with Marquise Brown. I think this is Matt Nagy said, I want that guy, because we had confirmation that Matt Nagy wanted that guy. And the fact of the matter is, this brings it back to trust. We've talked about trust. There's a big factor that we've mentioned every single preseason game with one wide receiver in particular who I originally had on my 53 that I no longer have on my 53 because of that word, trust. The Chiefs do not like it when you're not in the position that they expect you. And more specifically, Patrick Mahomes doesn't like it when you're not in the position that he expects you to be when he expects you to be there. So all things considered, there's two things we know about Juju Smith-Schuster. He's going to be where you want him to be on the field, and he's going to make an adjustment on the back shoulder throw on the sideline, which Patrick Mahomes will throw to him, not many other players.
Yeah.
So that's why he's in Kansas City.
It makes sense. It's floor. This raises the floor of this receiver room, and thusly the three-peat run, right? It doesn't help the high end. This is not going to take you over the top. This is not anything that can compensate for the lack of Hollywood Brown. This is just, hey, we're going to need to move the chains. We're going to need some first downs. We're going to need to make sure that when, whether it's Hardman and Xavier while Hollywood's out, or whether it's Hollywood and Xavier eventually, when those guys go deep, we got to have somebody throw it to underneath, because they might still try to double Travis. This is another sure-handed guy underneath that understands the offense. Is he going to be rusty? Yes. But he raises the floor of what this passing game can be as what I think is the fifth receiver. I still have Justin Watson ahead of him. I don't think he rolls in as on the field even without Hollywood right off the bat, because it is an adjustment. No offense. Playing in New England is not like playing in Kansas City. So got to dust off the old brain cells and start rubbing them back together and make sure that you understand where you're supposed to be all the time. It's going to take a little bit, right?
I don't think so. I think Juju knows exactly how to fit in this offense, and there's a reason that they waited until now and didn't care about getting him the last preseason game, because they knew they could just inject him into the offense and there would be no issue. There was no issue in year one. There was none. There was no adjustment period.
I was trying to buy him some breathing room, dude. Just trying to get him a little bit.
No, you have to come in, and if you're on the field, you have to produce, Juju. I do not care.
I'm not here for your adjustment period. Okay, fair enough. All right, so lay it out for me. We're going to go through Dan's 53 as we work through the stream tonight and answer all your questions, folks. So like, sub, hit the bell. Check out our sponsors. Get the gear if you want. The RGR store is open always in its current form. It's going to be fun. So wide receiver, let's just start with that. We know who your quarterbacks are. Wide receiver room, what does this do to your 53 man?
Yeah, so originally I did have Justin Ross on the roster, but I no longer do. I have replaced him with McCole Hardman, and that would mean that the Chiefs have 7 receivers, because we know that Brown is not going to start the year, but we don't know if he's going to be on IR yet. So I think regardless, you're going to have those 6 receivers playing. So you've got Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson, Sky Moore, because yes, he is on this roster, guys. I know a lot of you hate that, but he will be on this roster. And then Juju Smith-Schuster and McCole Hardman. Those are the 7.
I'm just grabbing these as we see them, guys, because I know a lot of you are asking the same questions. When you say the end, James, I don't think it's the end of Justin Ross. Did he show enough that somebody else might put in a waiver claim? Possibly. I honestly think he can get to the practice squad, so I think he'll be back. In my opinion, I think he makes it back to the practice squad myself.
That's I guess I can understand where you come from there. There are going to be some teams that like to throw 50-50 balls. And I think that there is a very realistic chance he gets picked up. Specifically, if we look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have two quarterbacks that like to throw the football to jump ball 50-50 guys. And if, again, knock on wood, if something were to happen to George Pickens, do they really have someone that can do that? No. Justin Watson might be, Justin Ross might be a guy that can do that. So I'm not saying he's going to get picked up by the Steelers. I'm saying fit-wise, quarterback fit-wise, it makes sense. So I do think there will be some teams that sniff around.
Okay. I can certainly live with that. And let's hope, because I have been impressed with the forward momentum that he's had this preseason.
Yeah.
Now we got to get to the rest of the 53. We're going to sprinkle it in as we answer your questions, but we're here to help you get into the action if you want to, and our friends at BetUS are going to help.
RGR Football is sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
And this is the deal. Fastest payouts in the industry. And right now you get a 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 right this minute. Chiefs are all over BetUS because they're right at the top of the list for both Super Bowl matchups. Whichever you think is the most likely opponent for the Chiefs, you can pick right now, as well as the Super Bowl odds that are the best currently as we speak. Mahomes for the MVP, the conference titles. You can get into all the action if you want to get over to BetUS. That's 125% deposit match on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000 each. They have live wagering on all major games, the best betting variety in the business, and you can even get 10% back on your losses twice a year. Check it all out at our BetUS link in the description below. All right, into the action we go. Thank you for BetUS for joining us this year. And let's get right at it. Jeremy, thank you, buddy. Nice to see you. One of our members. If you haven't been seeing my members' content lately, make sure you sign up at the rookie level or above. A lot of our core members are giving away the entry-level memberships for free. So a lot of you are getting those freebies. You have to upgrade to the rookie level or above to get all the extra content and stuff. And I've been putting out a couple of pieces, as well as my game notes that will be out all year long, usually by Tuesday of the following day. Jeremy's one of our members. All right. So what's the thought on the role Juju will play? Just insurance for Brown, solid wide receiver 4, or the bottom of the wide receiver core isn't as good as hoped. We kind of covered that, but again, I see him as 5. Raising the floor is enough for me to make this move. I feel good about this in making the room better. Do you?
Yes, I do feel good about that. Sorry, my daughter just made a noise. And as you guys know, there's no one else here except me and her. So when she makes a noise, I have to at least register that it happened and kind of make sure that she's okay. But I actually see this as a Travis Kelce insurance as well. This is something that Juju does very well. The same things in terms of finding those soft spots in the zone. So yes, Travis Kelce, we don't expect to have any issues because he was great down the stretch and he had some of those issues early in the season. But in the off chance that you, again, have to deal with something like that, he can slide in. And yes, it's a wide receiver, but he facilitates that part in that role in your offense a little bit more if you have to, because maybe the Chiefs don't go as much tight end. Maybe they use 5 or 4 wide receivers instead to try to get more of what you're looking for in that regard, because I like Noah Gray. I think that he's a really good tight end too, but he can't do what Travis Kelce can do. So if you have a long extended period of time that you need to find spots in zone and you have these young receivers, and Hollywood Brown's good at it too, but he's not to the level of Juju Smith-Schuster or Travis Kelce. So there's just some other things that they can do as well with Juju that will help, again, raise the floor of your wide receiver room, because trust is king.
I like that concept, and I'm happy with that. It also makes me think you were going to keep 7 because you didn't know what 4 you could count on every week, right?
Yeah.
Now, there is still an injury thing with Juju. We got to make sure his knees are all right. We're going to see how that works out. If he's good to go, this might facilitate only keeping 6 wideouts, including Hollywood, because you know that you're going to have that reliability factor that you don't have to go searching like they did last year. I personally am for that. Nothing against McCole Hardman. And like you said earlier, Sky Moore will be on the roster. So that would jettison McCole as well to the practice squad, is my guess. A guy that then could then be elevated while Hollywood is not able to play. And it fills the role. And I like just keeping 6. I think that helps them in other places like the offensive line. So, Jeremy, I think that part of your last statement is probably a factor there as well. Thanks, buddy. Ryan, nice name. Is the defense secretly a hot mess because of the injuries and some positions not having enough depth? I wouldn't call it a hot mess. There's definitely some chinks in the armor, but like, how concerned are you at this point? Does hot mess qualify?
I don't think that qualifies. I understand that we're concerned about the cornerback room, but at the end of the day, you've got Dave Merritt and Steve Spagnuolo, who we have to remember that after the bye week and later in the season is when they play their best football. So out of the gate, try not to overreact to what you're seeing, because they have to still try some new things with the injuries that they have at corner. So you have to be able to account for some of the obvious regression you're going to see from last year without without L'Jarius Sneed, and having a bunch of guys now being kind of thrown into a rotation and trying different things with Trent McDuffie as well. So there's going to be some natural regression, but they're going to figure out what they do the best.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Great question though, Ryan. I appreciate you asking it. Let me get back there. Mr. Holland, Gary is one of our moderators.
What's going on, Gary?
Asked excellent questions. Everybody give him a hand and a thumbs up on there. And I appreciate if you give a thumbs up on this video too. Like, up. That's a plus. Do the Chiefs sign both Bolton and Trey next year? If they don't, what player signs with another team? You go first.
All right. So I would guess, at least at this point, that given what we know, it feels, unless Joe Toney comes out and he plays like he did 2 years ago, he's probably not on the extend now list or the extend now train unless he's willing to take less. So you can probably say Trey Smith gets extended if he has a career year, which I do expect him to. Again, I believe that from what I've seen from the preseason. We'll see how it goes into the regular season. Nick Bolton's the tough one because they love Nick Bolton. Steve Spagnuolo is a big pro Nick Bolton guy. His contract is going to be tough because of the Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah contract. It's going to be tough to get him at that number. I would not sign him to that contract at all. If he's wanting that contract, I'd say good luck. Go somewhere else and have fun with it.
Was it 12-2 a year? Is that what it was?
It's something like that. It was close. No, I think it was like 13. Like it was 13.
Oh, was it really? Okay. Dang. Okay. I lean towards yes, but you make a very, very good argument. The question is going to be what else happens. Mahomes has a giant cap number next year. Yeah. So especially after the last move, like I think they have to rework that. If they do, and they're able to recoup cap space from him as well, that could change our whole prospects here, you guys. So, that's coming too. That's coming too. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're gonna get to Brady land here, where he's gonna be like, you know what, I'll take 16 mil a year. I got plenty. Oakley's paying me out the snout. I own half of Texas Tech now. Hell, I own half of Texas at this point. Is probably what he's about to say. So, I can live with it. That'll work just fine. Gary, thank you, buddy, and thanks for being our mod and being in charge. Appreciate you, brother. Micah, nice to see you, buddy. Any interested in signing Tim Patrick or Samaje Perine? I'd put them both on the practice squad. I saw somebody asking me today about trading for Samaje Perine, and I said, no. He's the sweetener on a draft deal trade. Like, you don't trade for him. But Patrick's got serious injury concerns, but he's got a knack. I actually think it's a mistake for them to let him go. I think they're trying to get him to the practice squad because they don't want to have a roster spot for him. But I think that's a mistake, especially if you're going to go with a rookie quarterback.
I agree. I think he's already a good player. Like, they've already shown that he's a good player. He's shown he's a good player. The problem is the injury stuff, I think, is at the end of the day, the reason he's being released is you don't want him to be there and then all of a sudden be gone again. And then you have to figure out somebody else. So if you take this rookie who's played pretty well this preseason and you cut him and he gets picked up, okay, now you're in, and then you have Tim Patrick get hurt. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. But Samaje Perine has to be traded first. and he's not been released. I know there was a question or something in there saying that he's kind of been released. He has not been released because the Broncos very clearly are on the hook for a lot of money if they do not trade him. So they have to find a way to get that traded, to get that trade through.
For a hamburger, maybe. I mean, that's just the way that it is. I also think that there's a possibility that they may have a deal with Tim Patrick. I believe at this point he's a vested veteran, so he wouldn't go through waivers.
Makes sense.
He could just sit out, and then he can come back after week 1 on a non-guaranteed contract. And maybe it's just that little detail that makes the difference. So
all right,
we'll see.
I like it.
Good question, Micah. Dennis, thank you, buddy. With Juju back, what gives us that gives us 3 middle area threats in Kelsey, Rice, and Juju. Sure. Do you consider putting Hollywood on IR then? I don't think having Juju makes any difference on Hollywood. Hollywood is only going to go IR if his prognosis for his injury is longer than 3 weeks. That's the only way. Because if you can have him back for game 3, they want him back for game 3 because it just delays. Every week he misses, delays what this offense will eventually become. And so I do think that it's just about his recovery. But it is a nice insurance thing where maybe you move Rice out more in the interim and maybe he's running some deeper routes like he can. And you have Juju running the underneath things a little bit more easy. Do you see something different, Dan?
Not necessarily, but you don't want to just be comfortable, right? Like I think Hollywood is one. He returned to practice today. Yes, he wasn't actually at practice. He or participating. He was there watching, which is a good sign. Like it feels like things are moving in the direction of week 2, week 3, and I think that's a perfectly reasonable arrival point for him to come back and play a little bit here and there. You don't want to force him too quickly, but you can start getting him some reps along the way. So I think that this is a good situation to be in. Obviously, with your bringing back, Juju, who knows the system, you don't have to worry so much about going into week 1 having guys that don't necessarily know it, which they all do at this point. So I'm pretty okay with it. I think it'll be all right.
Yeah. Hey, it's going to be one way or the other. It's going to work out. Hey, Daryl. Hey, Red. Nice to see you guys. And Dennis, thank you for not just the question, but being one of our members. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Micah, LJ Sneed said that he was mad about the trade to Tennessee on the Pivot Pod. I haven't heard that. Was his knee issue the ultimate factor in the reason we traded him? Yes. What I was hearing is that there was concern last year when he missed camp about his overall longevity in the league. That is exactly the primary concern. Plus, money on a guy who might have to miss time is money badly spent, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think what we have to realize is that shelf life in the NFL is not very long normally.
Yeah.
Like it just isn't. It's like 3 to 4 years max. And that's on average for all the NFL players. So what we're seeing from guys that stay in the league this long, it doesn't get around that easily. So the Chiefs are trying to get out in front of this and move on from a guy who's going to get paid a lot of money and has knee issues. And now they're just stuck in a cornerback room that have a lot of injuries, but it's not expensive. So trade off.
Yeah. Livable, right?
Yeah.
In case of emergency, it's livable. Yeah. I like that. Michael's got another one here. Who's the punt returner now that Juju got signed? It is either Sky Moore or Xavier Worthy. They want to give him some run at punt return because he is dynamic. Like, it makes me a little nervous, but Dave Toub gets generally what Dave Toub wants. So I think they're going to give it a shot.
I think Xavier wants it too. I think he wants it too. He wants to be a punt returner. I'm not that worried about it personally. Again, he's made of different material. We're going to get to see exactly what kind of material he's made of. But at the end of the day, I trust the Chiefs enough to, if they put him out there, that they trust he's going to be fine. And the best thing I can say about this is he knows how to get his body out of the way of the big hits. He can angle out of the way a little bit. He's not going to avoid all of them because nobody ever does. But I think he's self-aware enough to be able to do that.
I agree. Now, remember, all the depth charts on like Chiefs.com and everything is unofficial at this point.
Correct.
So we don't know for certain until we see it, but I think there's options there. Caroline, I am going to come back to you momentarily because I want to stay on the wide receivers for just a minute. Kev, thank you. Is it possible the NFL suspends Rice? When it first came down and they said, hey, he doesn't have a court hearing until December, that was exactly my concern. Like, if something goes wrong legally for him in December, the NFL could decide, hey, regular season, you're done. I don't know that that's the case now, but that was my initial concern. Do you share that, or am I just being overly nervous?
I don't necessarily think that there's anything happening this season. But this is the NFL. So you can't ever rule anything out. They have their own investigations. They have their own criteria you have to meet, and they do everything on their own timeline. So even though he has a court date then for his hearing, there's actually a pretty good chance that also gets bumped because it's, again, December in the NFL season. And the job of defense attorneys is to do whatever they can to benefit their client, which they're going to try to get that bumped out past the NFL season. That's what they're going to try to do. So just let it play out and we'll find out. I know it's not an answer anybody wants, but that's the only thing we have because there's been zero information given and nothing since this happened to give us any inclination of what's going to happen.
Yeah. And honestly, the smallest detail could turn that and change the whole thing. So I'm 100% with you. Like, you never know until you know. Alex, we're going to stay on the wide receivers for a second, guys. Rice, Brown, Worthy, Juju, Hardman, Watson. I think you have exactly how I have it. Yes. That is exactly what I have. And I'm good with that. You know, that's a pretty stout group, especially should you get Ross, Remigio, and maybe Hardman to the practice squad. Good Lord. I mean, that's some serious stuff right there.
Yeah, it's a good position to be in. And when you have guys that the team trusts, okay? The team clearly trusts these players that wouldn't be in Kansas City. I think that's the big thing that we're seeing come back to the front fold. Like, they had guys they couldn't trust out there for multiple games and even in the postseason last year. And they said, fine, we're done with this. And we're going to go ahead and move on to different pastures.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate you. Another member question, Steve, on the wide receivers. With the signing of Juju, are the Chiefs serious about developing any of their young wide receivers? And will Juju's knee hold up for the entire season? They are serious, but this is a chance at history. So if it comes down to a solid, trustable resource or rookie you think you can, or a young player that you think you can develop, that goes out the window when you're staring at a three-peat and the only team in the history of the league to do it. So you try to get them on the practice squad and re-pick up their development later, but I think history trumps everything right here.
I agree. I'm with you.
All right. Okay, so I think that's most of our wide receiver questions. So back to Caroline. And thank you, Miss Caroline. Always appreciate your question. She's like the RBs. And before we answer the question, what's your depth chart on your 53-man projection for the RBs?
I have 3 running backs because I'm keeping 7 wide receivers, so I'm going short at running back. And I still think, as of now, because he was back at practice today, the Chiefs will be keeping Pacheco, CEH, and Carson Steele. That is your running back room.
Okay. So with that, Matt Breida, Samaje P. Ryan Zonovan Knight, Mo Ibrahim, Joshua Kelly, Agent Edward, all released. Who moves the needle? Anyone. Great mock draft, Dan. Well done.
Oh, thank you.
I tweeted it. I haven't read it yet. I've been working today. Does anybody say anything to you? You get any tingle in the loins or anything from any of these dudes?
It's just Samaje P. Ryan if you could get him when he's cut. That's it. That's the only guy that moves the needle because he offers you what you need in the third down role. That's what he is. Like, that's what he's been. Like, he's had the most 2-minute drill catches of any running back last year. He's a good pass protection back, and he's a good short yardage back in those situations. Like, that's what they need from a fourth veteran. Like, that's what Jerick McKinnon was. Like, that's pretty much what he would serve.
Right. I just don't think he has the speed. So,
doesn't.
There's too much overlap with Carson Steele right now for me. And you know me, I'm gonna want to give Carson some touches. So I get that. And I'm sorry about the loins. That came out worse than I meant it to. Sorry about that. For me, it's Breida because I feel like
Breida's in San Francisco.
He got cut today.
He did? Okay.
Yeah. And the acceleration, I can't rely on him, but the acceleration that he has reminds me closer to what McKinnon did. So, like, if you're going to have a smaller dude that can, like, run away from a few people. It feels like that might be that kind of dynamic for me, but I don't know how healthy he is the problem.
We're going back to the word that we've been talking about. It's trust. Who do you trust on third down when you got to protect Patrick Mahomes? Carson Steele, Matt Breida, who might get injured, or Samaje Perine? It's Samaje Perine.
Not for me. Not for me. I'm all about the hair, bro. All about the hair. Okay. Des, I didn't mean to skip you before. Realistic chance that Sky gets traded. I say 5% if they get like an ungodly offer.
Yeah, I'd give it like 10, 15%. I think that the Chiefs would not be opposed to trading him if there was a good offer. There's no offers though, and they seem to still like him. So it's what it is.
There ain't gonna be offers. No, I'm not thinking so. But thank you, Des. Good to see you, buddy. Swag boy. Okay, he's moving on to cornerback. Now, if you guys missed my 53, it was last week. You can go back and watch the whole thing. We're concentrating on Dan's 53 tonight as we go through the questions. So, what's your corner room look like? And did Kelvin Joseph mess up your plan? Because he messed up mine.
Oh, no, he didn't, because I don't have him on the roster. So we have to remember that I think the Chiefs are going 10 DBs deep. And with how they operate in the back end, specifically at safety, I've got 5 corners with McDuffie, Williams, Watson, and Chamari Connor is listed as a cornerback. We'll see if that's how it actually is listed, but he's on there, and then Najee Johnson.
Okay. I like it. Okay, so with that said, Swag Boy's worried about CB23. Defense feels like it will be a slow start again to begin with. Absolutely. That's the right expectation because that's what Spags does. How are you concerned about 2-3, whether that's McDuffie in the nickel and 2-3 are both the outsides, or it's a nickel and an outside?
I'm more concerned now because of the injuries. All 3 of them are dealing with injuries. Every one of them outside of Chamari Connor is dealing with injuries, and that's not a good place to be. So that's where it gets tough, especially when you do cut maybe a guy who fits the mold in Kelvin Joseph, and you say, in the first wave of cuts, you weren't good enough to make it. Ekaboido, who's got another in the same mold, who played good ball this preseason, got cut. So the fact that they seem extremely confident in those 3 guys that we just talked about, it worries me a little bit because we've seen the injuries, and you're only one away from having Najee Johnson or right now Jalen Watson, who's out of shape, out there for the entire football game. That's a problem.
Yeah. Sorry, Jalen. You can't put yourself into shape on the field, bro. I'm just saying. I know you know this now, but good God, it made me nervous. If you guys would hit the like, that would help us. It was very, very plain to see, right? Oh, yeah. Good Lord. Okay, so Swag Boy also had this one. Nervous about a 3-peat. Changed my mind. I mean, why are you nervous? It's never been done. It is that hard because it's never been done. Don't be nervous. Embrace the challenge. That's what I said.
I was nervous about the back-to-back. Like, I was nervous about that. So when you see a team that's going for a back-to-back, it's always like, all right, so this is putting you among some of the best teams ever to play the game. When you're trying to do something that's never been done, there's no real pressure on you because you've already done only 5 other teams in NFL history has ever done and go back-to-back. So you do that, you're already putting yourself up there with the best teams to ever live. Ever. Okay? So right
Steelers,
now,
Cowboys, Broncos in the 90s.
Patriots. Patriots.
Well, I was going to try to leave those out. I don't like those guys.
You don't have to like them. But
That's
still,
right.
So like right now, you're also living in the greatest era of Chiefs football ever. So embrace not just the challenge, but accomplish something that's never been done before and doing it with a drastically improved offense with what it should be from last year.
I mean, honestly, when I look at the odds of them doing it, and you guys can get all the odds at BetUS and they'll lay it out on a line. But when I just look at percentages when I line this up, like there's a 30% chance, which is about even with what I said about them last year and the year before, of them completing that. The fact that it's not monumentally more going into a season when you could three-peat for the first time in history, like that's a break that I'll take. Because I don't think the AFC is as strong as it was last year. I don't know that the strongest NFC teams have gotten stronger either. Do you think the Niners are better than they were last year? Because I don't.
No, absolutely not. They're worse, and they could be far worse by the time the season starts because Trent Williams has said he is not going to show up until he gets his contract done. CeeDee Lamb just got $34 million a year. You think that makes it easier for the 49ers to pay Brandon Ayuk what he wants to pay? No. So, no, I don't think they're going to be better or as good as they were last year. New defensive coordinator? Come on now.
Yeah. So, like, I think this season sets up super good, Swag Boy, just from like the rest of the league, like what they're doing, getting the deep game back. Like, I'm all in, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. Handeman, nice to see you, buddy. Another one of our members. How do you think we'll rotate the J-Dubs? I had to think about that for a second.
I like it.
And Nazi in the CB2 position. For me, I think it's about Nazi's knee. When he gets back to 100%, I think he gets to play. I'm not sure I'm down with a free agent, but I'm not opposed to it. It depends who that is. I could still also see, this is kind of similar to the wide receivers. You let Kelvin Joseph go, who I actually felt outplayed Keith Taylor. That's
for sure.
Just my personal opinion.
I agree.
But you have so many corners that are right there at like roster threshold that you don't have CB3 and 4 that are like super good, right? You have question marks there. So if you had to trade 2 of those guys or a guy and something else to get a bona fide CB3, like I'm okay with that. If that's what has to be done, again, to secure history.
What if Justin Ross is that guy? I think Justin Ross would be a very good sacrificial lamb in this situation to get yourself a reliable cornerback 3 who's not hurt. I know people want to see him on the roster, but bringing Juju in basically tells you he's not making it. So if you can get something for him, I'm in.
Yeah, I won't argue at all. Hype, thank you, Jacktive. Appreciate you, buddy. Always appreciate that. You. Nice to see you. Tyler, hey guys, love the content. Thanks, Tyler. I was wondering what you think of Hicks' potential is and his player comp.
All right.
I don't do comps very often. I'm going to let Doug do that.
So I don't do comps either, but real quickly, Tyler, Doug is right. Dan would say Hicks is a dude. He's an absolute dude, and he's absolutely right, Doug. Appreciate you pulling that out right there. But I was talking about the potential for Jaden Hicks in the video that I did for him when he was drafted. This is Dan Sorensen plus. He's a guy who can play all over your defense for you, but is going to offer far more production as that dime backer. He can be trusted in the run game. His click and close is better. He's trying to hit people. Go back and watch the preseason game. He was hitting people. He is all about laying the wood. He's a big hitter. I think he has more potential as a legitimate 2-high safety than Dan Sorensen ever did. So he unlocks what Spags wants to do. Obviously, he's not a 2-high safety yet, but we saw him playing a little bit of single high, a little bit of 2-high in the preseason. He was doing all of it to get experience, to get those reps. Once you see it, you have to, because they clearly see him as that player who can do it all, can do everything, play big slot, play big nickel, do all that stuff that you want from a Dan Sorensen plus type player.
And this is exactly the plan that Brian Cook followed. Brian Cook did not play high as a rookie either. He didn't do it in college either. So like there is that precedent and that path to follow. I'll tell you this. It's the Jets version of Jamal Adams that he reminds me of. Now that's pretty lofty. He could easily attain Seahawks Jamal Adams. He can get to that level. If he can get to Jets level of Jamal Adams, that would be different. It was Jets, right? Or was it Giants? It's one of the New York teams. Anyway, like that's what he reminds me of on film, at least in college. We'll see what he does this year against the pros. So, if Avery will let him play, we'll enjoy it. Pono, Brown, Xavier, Rice, Rashee, Juju, Watson, McColl, Toney. Toney has too much upside. Bye-bye, Sky. Not in the coach's eyes. I see what you're saying. Toney's a head case. I don't think you're going to cure that. I think he's gone. I see what you're saying about Sky's frustration, but he has the potential to be a cheaper version of McColl. He doesn't have the top-end speed. I had them both on the roster until Juju, and I think it's just that they like Sky more for some reason, more than they like McColl, because I probably would have gone with McColl.
So to your point about Kadarius Toney, Mike Sando did his quarterback tiers that he does every year, and it was released today. In that article, Cadarius Toney issues was quoted. It wasn't just, it was him. Specifically was mentioned by a GM. Cough, cough, Brett Veach. Okay? No. Cadarius Toney's not making this roster because they do not believe in him anymore. It's over. They were trying to get him showcased in the final preseason game to see if they could get him traded. That was what they wanted to do, in my opinion. Now, if they go through all this with that quote and Cadarius Toney makes the roster, what does that say about how they view this team, in my opinion?
Yeah, Ed says that you don't believe in anybody else, especially a small blonde girl with a pillow. I mean, you gotta watch out for them. They're dangerous in the wild.
They pop up anywhere, man. Anywhere.
Oregon. I wonder if the practice squad could get cherry picked by a bunch of teams, just hoping to hurt the Chiefs more than themselves. I don't even know if it's about hurting the Chiefs, especially for those guys that have been in Kansas City for a bit, like Ekaboido. Like, you get a guy that can play teams for you instantly, a guy that has potential to play in this league, maybe not in this roster because the corners group is so good. Other teams will have room for him to play, but here's the other thing. He knows how to win. He knows how a franchise is set up to prepare to win, and I think that holds some gravitas across the league too. So maybe not so much to hurt them, but to get a piece of what the Chiefs do and bring it into their organization. I do think that could be part of the possibilities. And chime in if you want, or I'll just keep rolling. I know
no, you're good. I'm just, she's right behind me playing. So,
Charles, should we bring in another CB? Feel like we have a high floor, but a very unstable ceiling at CB2. That's fair. Again, people don't give up CB2s in this league, so it's tough.
No, and they don't. And I'll use this opportunity to talk about the safety position. We were just talking about Jaden Hicks, and this is where I get different because I'm going to have, Justin Reed, Brian Cook. I do have Deion Bush still making it. I think he's very valuable. He could also be brought to the practice squad if there's a position that they get that is not like maybe an extra running back, an offensive lineman, defensive end. If one of those is also required, I think you could see Bush go down to the practice squad because, again, he's a vested veteran. They wouldn't have to worry about that. And then you have Jaden Hicks. And I've got CRW making this roster. And that's where the cornerback room gets a little bit different because he can be your nickel and help solidify your corner room, which you don't have to have two of those guys out there if they're dealing with injuries. You can rotate them in and out with however you need to. And when you go to your dime where you go to nickel, you can put CRW out there because I think he's already a better nickel than any of those guys that we just talked about, including Chamari Kana.
I agree with you. And the nice thing is he and Connor are interchangeable at this point because Connor can come down and play nickel, especially against big slots, and go back. So, like, you have chess pieces that can interchange, and I love that concept, and I know Spag does too.
Connor being a big slot helps you a lot because he was great as a big nickel last year. He fits that role, but he's not a full-time nickel. That's where that rotation really helps you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Just cover all the bases all the time. Info, nice to see you, buddy. In my opinion, I'm more scared of losing CJ Hansen or Ethan Driscoll to any fringe wide receiver like more Tony Ross Remigio. Am I crazy for thinking Casey could go 10, even 11 deep at O-line and only 6 at wide receiver? You're not crazy. I have only 6 wide receivers, and I did go 10 to keep Hansen safe for now. I don't think you can afford to go 11 offensive linemen. I'll just say that now. But 10, I think you kind of have to if you want to keep those two guys in particular. But even that, I don't know. I don't know if they can afford to do it. We're going to have to see what they do with the running backs and the tight ends. And do you have 4 tight ends on your 53?
I do have 4 tight ends on my 53, but this would not shock me if it was 3 because I don't think Irv Smith has done anything to earn a roster spot in the slightest. Agreed. So I have it at 4 because they like to use 13 personnel. That's the only reason I have 4. If they used 12 and barely use 13, I would go with 3. But we know that they like to use 13 personnel, so I have 4. And since we have offensive line here, let's get into it. I've got 9 offensive linemen. I don't have 10 because I think you can get CJ Hansen onto the practice squad. I don't think he's shown enough to say that teams would just come in and take him. But, you never really know. I've got Kingsley. I've got Joe. I've got Humphrey, Smith, Taylor. We have Morris. That could also change if he has to go on IR. If Morris has to go on IR, we'll see that tomorrow. But as of now, he's on my roster. Hunter Norzad, Mike Caliendo, and then Lucas Niang is the last one to round it out to be your swing tackle backup player.
Okay. I can live with all that. I think Driscoll, you can get to the practice squad. I think they did a good job not letting him play too much or showcase too much in the last one. So
that one play might have got him though. That one play, there was one play against the Lions where it might have gotten him.
Damn it. Doug, what role will Leo play this season? Thoughts? He's going to be your strong side backer. And I think unless somebody steps up, they're going to give him some pass rush snaps too. It may be from a 2-point, maybe a little bit off the ball, but unless they get another defensive end, like I'm a little thin there. And I like Leo as a rusher. I even like him better if you stack him up and you're just going to send 5 consistently and attack the B gap and crush dudes because, hey, I love this kind of concept.
Just if you want Nick out there, and if you want to do again pseudo 3 or 4-3, whatever, you got your down lineman. You just say, hey, Leo, line up on the center, do what you did in college, and take this guy into the quarterback, or where you can have Nick and Drew Tranquil still out there in coverage, but you're still rushing a bunch of different guys. You can have simulated pressures. You can still blitz your nickel. You can still blitz a safety. Just let Leo Chanel wreck offensive linemen. Just let him wreck them. Unless I just don't want to see him in pass coverage too much. I really don't.
Yeah. Not his thing. He's improved more than I thought he would, but not his thing. I totally agree with you. And thank you, Doug. It's nice to see you, pal. Joe, nice to see you, buddy. Will Pacheco be signed after his rookie contract? Ooh, that is a tough one. It depends how he holds up physically. If there's injuries, it starts to wear down that likelihood, in my opinion. But he brings so much to the table. I think they might try to. Where are you at?
He's already got back-to-back years with some injuries. If he has another one this year, I already think the Chiefs are saying no to that because they are not going to want to pay a seventh round running back. They're just not going to want to do it because he's a 7th round running back. They can just say, hey, we can just go get another one. Get it off the scrap heap. We can do what we need to. We don't need – it's Patrick Mahomes. We don't have to pay a running back.
Yeah. It depends what he wants too. I mean, if he just lets me in Kansas City, he's willing to play cheap. That's a possibility as well. It's all about the relationship that the player has to the team as well. Agents aside. But we're going to find out, Joe. I got my fingers crossed. Doug, nice to see you as always. 2 in a row here, not back to back. But
appreciate you, Doug.
Will we see a lot of cover 2 shell this season with the great safety room we have? I don't think Spags wants to unless threatened. I think he wants to drop guys down, particularly Connor and Hicks. He wants to blitz. If they don't get solid edge production from the other side, they might have to. So that requires having a single high. But I think they'll do it out of the nickel so that you have a lower safety and somebody in the box that can attack. McDuffie's a great blitzer. But if everything works out right, he should be on the outside. So that pulls away with how much you can send him. So I like the concept of sending the safety. You don't agree?
No, I'm shaking my head at my daughter because she's not being where she's supposed to be. I think you're going to see a lot of everything because Spags loves to shake it up and he loves to give you one thing and rotate to another. So at the end of the day, yes, they do not have a true safety in the sense of free safety where you can just trust him to be back there and cover the length of the field. They're going to be more comfortable in 2 high shells, but they're going to change all the time. You play cover 3, you play some cover 4, you'll play some cover 6, but you'll see a lot of 2 high safety at the end of it because that's where they'll be most comfortable in terms of not giving too much to do for their receiver, their corners on the outside, especially if you're going to have to play Trent McDuffie in the slot at all.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a tough one. And Doug, I saw your question about the RAS score. I don't track the RAS scores because they're just historical computations. But his athletic matrix definitely leans toward the explosive and away from the change of direction. He is very, very good coming downhill, getting off to a good start, in playing linearly rather than laterally. So that's kind of what makes up his best athletic profile. James Perry, sorry. I don't want to say Doug Perry for some reason. Do you think that we will miss the speed that Willie Gay provided in the linebacker core? I do think so, especially on the littlest plays, on the little running back swings and the little pivot routes out to the outside. That ability to plant your foot and go. Tranquil's good, but he's not as good as Willie was. Leo is less so, and Bolton's even less than that. So I do think there will be times, if teams are smart, they will attack the linebacker level with the running backs, but that plays into Spag's scheme. He wants to keep stuff in front of me. He doesn't want chunk plays. If you're attacking linebackers with running backs at 7 yards deep, Spag's going to live with that all day long.
Yeah. I don't know if you touched the RIS stuff. I was dealing with this one who's now going back to the room.
I just talked about the athletic, the matrix, because the profile is a little bit different than just the historical scores.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure we got the historical part in there, because it's that's all it is, guys. That's it. Yeah. So you're always going to miss a little bit of what Willie Gay brings, because he's raw, unadulterated speed athleticism. You're always going to miss that reactive athleticism. There's just no way about it unless you get someone that has that, and the Chiefs don't have that on their roster. So yes, to say it in a long way, you're going to miss it, but hopefully they can manage, because I understand that. I know Leo's a good athlete. He's just not a good linebacker athlete. He's a good defensive end athlete. Like, he'd be a fantastic defensive end, because that's what his profile says.
And if Spags is going to continue to do this BS where you're dropping both the ends, then Leo has to be one of those ends, because he can actually do it. Yes. God. Oh, God, that drove me nuts the other night. Sorry. I digress, folks. Apologies. Spags is going to do what Spags is going to do. I'm going to deal with it. Joe, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate your support, buddy.
Appreciate you,
Do
Joe.
we see Deuce Vaughn to the practice squad if he gets cut in Dallas? I personally am for that. I would love to see it. I mean, nothing against Bailey or any of the other running backs that are practice squad eligible, but I would like to see it.
Please. The simple fact that the Cowboys are just bringing in possibly Dalvin Cook when they could get far more out of Deuce Vaughn. I don't care how small he is. He can play. He can play. And we sit here have to watch Zeke Elliott and possibly Dalvin Cook run the football in the year 2024 in Dallas. It's unreal.
For a week or two, anyway, until they get broken again. It'll be fine. Joe, appreciate you. But yes, we are for that one. I'm gonna take that as a positive. Yes. Is the safety room legit? I feel better about this safety room than I have in the last 2 seasons. I'll put it that way. And it got him to the Super Bowl. So I'm
getting Jaden Hicks in the 4th round was just it was beautiful.
Steal after steal after steal. Mark, welcome to the memberships. Nice to see you, and congrats. We appreciate.
I saw you in there saying you've been here for 9 months, so now this is your 10th. Appreciate you. Appreciate you being here, Mark.
Yes, very much so. Doug, do you think that Veach and Spags are looking for a DT or a DE? Yes, I think they're open to anything, especially the age factor at DT is in particular something that I'm sure they're trying to counteract. I just did a quick look a little bit ago here while we were on, and I just don't see anything that stands out to me as either position on the D-line for them to go get. There's just nothing yet. I was a big fan of Derek Rivers when he came out, but that was like 5 seasons ago now, and he hasn't been able to round into shape. So, I might put him on the practice squad, see what he has, because you never know. Some guys do perform in a SPAG system better than they have in any other system. So there's always that aspect. But so far, nothing yet.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the defensive end and defensive tackles for my 53, since we're already here. On defense tackle, we got Tershawn Wharton, Chris Jones, Derek Nadia, Mike Pennell, and Matt Dickerson. I think they're going to take 10 defensive linemen total, and I think Matt Dickerson has outplayed Neil Farrell, Fabian Lovett, anybody else that they've rolled out there, which is surprising because I was not a big fan of Matt Dickerson last year. So congratulations, Matt. You've done a good job. At defensive end, we've got FAU. We've got George Karlaftis, Charles Omenihu, who will be on PUP list to start the year. Am I not mistaken? Or am I mistaken with that? So
they could put him to IR too.
So he'll have to, won't he have to be on the roster if they fix that?
They fixed that. You can go directly to PUP or IR from the 90-man camp roster.
All right, then I'm going to have to add somebody to this list with Dana and Herring, and I don't know who it's going to be. So you talk me into who to put on the 53 with the Charles Omenihu spot, unless it's somebody that we'll see added after roster cuts.
I was going to say player to be named later.
Probably that's why. There we go.
I do think that is a possibility. And just like you were saying, Red, so far, I haven't seen anybody worth picking up. It might be a trade. I think that there's value in paying Hassan Reddick on a 1-year contract or maybe a 2-year contract because he wants out of New York. I think the Hassan Reddick situation is more of a comment on a lack of planning by the Jets leadership than it is on a player being greedy. He's 29 years old. You know he's coming for his last big payday. Like, for you to trade for him and not have a plan to pay him was ridiculously stupid.
Well, I mean, it's the Jets we're talking about, right? Not exactly a smart organization. If you guys want to see who I think the Jets are going to be taking in the next year's draft, go check out my mock draft on TDN on
Nice. Well done. Your segues are improving so much. That's impressive.
We're getting
Thanks,
better.
Red. Bumpa, what has Sky done to deserve a spot on the team? Honestly, I don't even know if it's Mahomes. I think Andy wants to trust him, and I think he has a rapport with Reed that he feels he can get there. That's what it feels like to me.
The only thing is he does what Andy Reid wants him to do, I think. And this offseason, the fact that Andy spoke adamantly about he feels the game has slowed down a little bit and he's getting to where he's supposed to be. And they worked through that earlier part in the training camp where he was still having some issues and they got to like a greener pasture. It feels like Andy Reid saw something and that's why he's on the roster.
Yeah, I agree. And Des, thanks for putting that. I couldn't remember what number he was looking for. He may want a lot of things. He ain't never going to get that. I'll tell you that now. He certainly ain't going to get it from the Jets. So the big question is going to be, do they get to the point where they release him or are they still going to try to shop him? Because I don't think he's ever going to put on their uniform. I feel like that's pretty set.
I agree with you. And real quickly, Red, I appreciate you. And it's not anything to do with her bothering me. It's her walking around behind this where all the expensive cords that can knock over my monitors are. So I don't have a problem with her like playing in here and stuff. But when she starts getting up and walking behind my monitors, that's when, okay, you got one more chance. If you go under my desk, you go behind, you got to go back to the room. That's the only reason I had the conversation with her that I did, because she was about to knock some things over.
The timeout's coming, child. The timeout's coming. Oh, good Lord.
We avoided it.
Thank you, buddy.
It.
Thank you, Hype. Appreciate you for the super chat and the support. Sign X. Do CB help?
I'm assuming Xavier and Howard.
D Cook. Oh, okay. I mean, can he play man anymore?
No,
there were a couple games last year where I was. Is he toast? Okay. So we'll pass on that one. I don't think Frank's coming back. Dalvin looks like he's going to the Cowboys, and I don't know. I don't know that you can sign him because you're going to get 4 games out of him, and that's going to be it. I mean, I just don't trust his body.
He wasn't even that good in pass protection either. Like, it's not like he was a fantastic pass protection back. But the Chiefs are looking for a third down back. If they're going to sign anybody, it's somebody that you can trust on third down.
Fair enough. Scott, the high Juju button's working. I like that. I don't know what I just hit, but I hit something. I just wanted to highlight your comment, Scotty. Thank you very much.
Hi, guys.
Appreciate you.
I'm up here in the corner now.
I'm over here. And we got hypes. Okay. Bruce, I like the way you put this. If you guys would tickle the like button.
Just tickle it. Just give it a nice little.
It's not a euphemism, I promise. My wife's not watching.
I almost made it. I was close. But we'll keep it family friendly, folks.
Would you guys grow a mohawk if the Chiefs three-peat? Sure, man. I ain't got no hair left anyway, so I mean, you ain't missing much.
I can answer this for my wife. Absolutely not. That's not something that I will be allowed to mess with.
No, she might hurt you. I'm not here for that. Avery might make the roster since she's okay. I already got that. She's a better attitude and comparable elusiveness to KT. I like your observation, Scott.
She's getting there. You should see her it's funny since she's in practice now. She's at flag football practice. She has it tomorrow. Her first time with the football in like those Oklahoma drills that they do for it, where you have two defenders out here and you're trying to get by them. She got by both of them, and they're like 8-9-year-olds, and she was like, "You can't get me." So she's got a little bit of elusiveness to her. And we're working on the catching. She still does a lot of the, I'm gonna look over here, but close my eyes and catch the football. Because we have to use the junior size to get her hands used to catching that football. So it's like a step down from the college size. So it's big for her. But she's improving.
Okay, I'll take it. She's in the making at this point. I love it.
Yeah.
Caroline pointed out that Keenan Isaac from the Bucs was released. Would he work in this system? Maybe. I mean, the Buck system has some carryover, but I wouldn't call it a lot. I'm trying to remember what he did in college the best, but do you?
I never saw him, so I apologize, but I'm not very helpful here.
Fair enough. Caroline, I'll have a look at him and see if I can get you an answer in there next week. We'll see if he gets picked up. How's that? Scott, if is fullback counted in the running backs on the roster, doesn't even matter. No, it's still 1 in 53 spots. The PR team lists Carson as a fullback, but I think he'll just be an RB when it's all said and done, because that's how Andy referred to him. So no big deal. Bradley, do you think Kingsley can handle the guy over there against the hated Bungles, Trey Hendrickson? He has the arm length to do it. And a guy has a mouth on the field, to be honest with you. I'm sure Hendrickson will get a lick in there too, sure. But I do think that Kingsley's feet and his arm length are going to be his saviors against Hendrickson in particular.
He's going to have to relocate inside, because we know one thing, that Trey Hendrickson can stretch the arc. When you can stretch the arc, you're going to open up the B gap. And that's been the big bugaboo with developing Kingsley Suamataia. He still has a tendency to open his hips too far to the sideline. And what that does is, yes, it makes it really hard. You guys, we've talked about outside zone and running backs, why it's really hard in shotgun to see any cutback lane, because your hips are turned parallel with the sideline. It's the same for offensive linemen. When you have a rusher coming up your arc, so on his left side, he turns his hips and his shoulders to him, he can't then take his hips and flip them the other way and say, "Oh, I can get in front of you now." It doesn't really work that way. So he's just got to be a little bit better about hand placement to the outside with his outside hand. Move your feet with him, and then keep that inside hand free unless he commits, and that's when you can really go after him.
Yeah. It's a process, and it's being comfortable with changing your mechanics when somebody better than you is coming at you. Because right now, he has 0 NFL experience, 0. Everybody has more than him that he'll face until he gets into it. So I do think that he'll come along. I'm not concerned about that. Okay, let me jump to the next one. Thank you, Bradley. Appreciate you. Javonce's back. Month 44. Football's back, and so are you. Nice to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. I got to go back and catch up. Good to see you all again. Good to see you, pal. Hope you're doing well.
Appreciate you, Javonce.
And yes, the real thing is almost here. It is so close. I'm itching, but good to see you, dude. Hope you're doing well. As are you, Mike Barton. Old friend. I'm gonna have to get Carson on, because all we get is fullbacks on this show, so we're gonna have a good time. Mike, nice to see you. And thank you, Doug. Appreciate you. Since running back room does not have depth, what's the thoughts on McKinnon would be signed? I mean, I have to feel, Dan, they'd have done it by now if they were gonna. Am I wrong? Is it a Pennell thing? Like they'll do it in October?
It feels like they would have brought him on already, considering, I guess, because he was last year. Like, I don't think McKinnon needs that rest. Like, he's not a defensive tackle where he's going to be taking on double teams. He'll be, pass protection, but he's not going to be used that much. So I don't know why he's not. The only thing is injuries, because obviously he played through injury to get through the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And if he's just not there yet, maybe he's just waiting to be fully healthy.
And sometimes you have to have a more extensive or a secondary procedure. Maybe he's just not healed yet. You have to stabilize that pelvis to be able to actually do this for more than just a game. So maybe it's It's simply that he's not ready to be back on the field. I'm like, hey, if he is, I'd love to see it. I'm all for it.
Agreed.
James, I sounds like you would be too. Dub Freak, thanks, buddy. Good to see you. Would it be Fantasyland if we were to trade for Colin Saunders? I missed 99 alongside 95. You and me both, buddy. Colin was one of my dudes.
Can we just talk about quickly how Colin Saunders' contract should have been given by the Chiefs very easily, given what we're seeing right now? Yeah. That was one of the mistakes that was made. Given the sense of this defensive tackle room, it was a mistake to let him go after what he developed into. He was a guy who was more of a pass rusher coming out of Western Kentucky or something like that he came from. And he was more of a pass rusher, athletic guy. And he developed into a legitimate run stopper who was starting to get juice as a pass rusher again in the NFL. That was a mistake. He's
a hell of a linebacker, if nothing else.
Hell yes.
Oh, man. I mean, yeah. But can you trade for him? If you have an injury, you might have to consider that.
You might have to. Because Saints are going to be
getting
bad.
Him out of Big Easy.
Going to be bad.
Yeah. He might be a bright spot, a younger player.
I mean, aren't they just the Kansas City Chiefs South at this point? You got Tyrann Mathieu, you've got him, you've got Willie Gay. Like, come on now.
Swords is down there too, right?
He was. I don't know if he still is.
He was. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to check that now because you're right. It's like everybody's going south, coming down for the gumbo and not going home. Okay, well, fine, works for me. Daniel, nice to see you. Got to ask, signing of Juju means no Ross, or does a receiver core become one of the best in the league with those four dudes: Rice, Brown, Worthy, and Smith-Schuster? We do feel if you missed the beginning of the show that it is probably the end of Justin Ross for the 53. I think there is a possibility that they could trade him. He could end up back on the practice squad there. It's kind of wide open for him. Again, as Dan put eloquently before, there are other teams that will use his skill set, the jump ball in particular, a lot more than the Chiefs will. So there's issues there. Let's see. We covered O-line, covered tight ends. We have the offense done, right? Have we missed anything on the defensive side of the ball?
Actually, the only thing we have not covered are linebackers and tight ends.
Okay. You said 3 tight ends, no Irv, right?
No, I said 4. I said I have 4. I wouldn't be surprised if they have. But you guys should know who the 4 tight ends are at this point, right? We've talked about them all off season, so I'm not going to bore you with those details. But at linebacker, it's pretty self-explanatory as well, because Jack Cochran, who I'm going to be doing a little bit of a film review on Wednesday, how he was able to earn his roster spot, not just because he's a special teams ace man, but he is on the roster. Drew Tranquil, Leo Chenal, Cam Jones, I still think is going to make it, and then we got Nick Bolton. So that is your guys' 53-man roster. You'll be able to find it throughout the video, but obviously we're assuming that Winchester's fine, right? He's going to be fine, we assume at this point. So they
released the guy they signed for a week, so I got to think so.
Yeah, I would hope so. So the special teams guys are going to stay the same with Ariza being the punter. Oh, good Lord, he's so good.
It's going to help. It's going to make a difference. I know it doesn't sound like it should, but it will. Dez, are you not a Yannick Ngakoue fan? Like, I can't say that I'm not a fan. I think he's a decent player, and I think he's still got some juice. But I will say I'm a little concerned. When you can't stick on a roster and nobody wants to touch you for this long, like, that says something about how you fit into a team. And I think this team, maybe more so than 19 or last year, are worried about making sure that you have the team fit so you could try to do this 3-peat deal.
Yeah, and they're trying to not throw off that team chemistry, and that's exactly why we don't believe that Kadarius Toney will be on the roster. This is a different thing. You have to be all 100% locked in. If there's one thing we know about Toney, that's not it.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I do think he can play. Kyle, thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. Nice to see you again. Do you want to be the best team in the league this year or the best team in the league ever? Both. I like your answer. Both. That's what I would say too. And the good thing is, to be the best team ever, you have to be the best team in the league this year. So you can accomplish it all. You can have it all for low price of Patrick Mahomes throwing to somebody named Hollywood Brown. You just got to make that happen. It's going to be fun. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate you. And thank you, Doug. 9 months back on the train. Nice to see you, buddy. 3-peat is the thing. Dan, give everybody the lowdown. It's on the Draft Network, correct? Your latest mock?
Absolutely. I have my very first round mock for the 2025 NFL Draft on thedraftnetwork.com. It was not easy to do. I was it took a lot longer than I expected it to. We'll just say that. And I think that you guys will not know the name of the player that I have the Chiefs selecting at 32 because the odds updated and they were at 32. So do yourselves a favor and watch out for this player. I'll just let you guys go over there and see who it's going to be because I really like this specific player, defensive player, that will help them on their ways to consistently rebuilding the room that they've built.
You had me at defense. I am all in. Thank you, buddy. That's the Draft Network TDN. Go find it. And we'll give you a link to it here as well. Make sure you check out BetUS. If you guys want to get into the betting action, they're going to help you. And they're going to give you 125% up to $2,000 3 different times on your deposit. So great new sponsor. We've got a load of them coming this season, including, I should do this too. I'm going to give you guys the lowdown.
Oh, no.
Special deal.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. This is
the 740 of you in here right now are getting a special edition look at this thing. Look at it. Look at it.
If you want to know what it looks like to be Patrick Mahomes and see the view from inside his helmet, this is it. This is going to help you out. I'm not a big collectibles guy, but when Green Gridiron came along, I'm pumped. I'm going to show you more of it here coming this week, so be prepared.
Yes.
Super preview for those of you who stay through over an hour stream. Yeah. We appreciate you. Phil, we're going to wrap up with you unless there's anything else that I missed. Do you guys think that Veach has thought about resigning Kareem Hunt and letting CEH go because of the illness and the lack of availability? I think he's probably concerned about letting CEH go. I don't think Kareem Hunt is a thought in his day. No.
I think that the Chiefs have the white version of Kareem Hunt on their roster. So, no, they're not really thinking about it at all.
It's the hair. It's all the hair. Yeah. Alka, you got it right. That is the on-field edition, the real deal, all the way down. And I will lay it all out for you here. I'm going to have some thoughts tomorrow. I may go live real quickly tomorrow afternoon. I've got a volleyball game I got to get to, but just after cuts come down and the deadline hits, I'm going to try to do a quick live for you. And I may show you guys some more of that tomorrow as well.
Cool.
Check it out. There's a link in the description. You can go see it right now. And you can use our link to help us out. So Sean, I followed the channel for over 2 years and I can relate to normal people like you. Peace. Appreciate you, Sean.
Appreciate you, Sean. Love seeing that. Love you being here. Just want to make sure you got a little shout out for the show.
That is the thing. Yeah, absolutely. Cheers. Dan, thank you for being a nice, calm, and collected dad. You do much better at this age than I did when mine were at this age. I'm going to tell you that right now.
You know, a lot of it has to do with the camera right now. I won't lie. You know, we all have little frustrations, and when she's walking around back there about knocking stuff over, it grinds my gears. But we all have to put on a brave face and deal with it in a way that we want her to not get upset about. So that's the big thing.
Yeah. Caroline, thank you. You rock as well. And Morris did practice today. She got a report. I did not see that.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool.
Nice to see you, Night Hunter, and all of you that were here, all you members, everybody that contributed to the show. Thank you very much. Not bad for a cut down night 700 in the chat. I love those kind of numbers. We will see you tomorrow for mine, Dan on Wednesday. And then, hey, 1 week from this Thursday, Chiefs are on the field. I hope you guys are ready because I certainly am. All right. Have a great one. Enjoy your week. And anything crazy happens, trades or whatever, you'll hear from us pretty immediately. So make sure you're dialed in and you're subbed. Have a good night. We'll talk to you next time.